Hello, my name is Jack Schreibman. Today I'm doing my presentation for Barcelona past and present, and I'm going to be discussing basketball in Barcelona, the history, and most specifically the Olympics in 1992, not only the impact for the city of Barcelona, but also the whole basketball world for generations to come. So let's start with basketball in Barcelona. FC Barcelona, the soccer team, has a basketball team as well, like many European soccer teams, they do. It was founded on August 24th, 1926. They played at the Sol de Baix Sports Complex, but the first 5 or so years, it was not very popular. They did not have many viewers at the game. They barely filled their stadium, but it was popularized later in the 1930s, and they started to get a draw to their games. So the first golden era of FC Barcelona basketball was after the Spanish Civil War. It was at the end of the 1940s, a little bit after the Second World War. Remember, if you look at the history of Barcelona, they were ravaged in the 1930s, but they did not participate in World War II. So they had a younger generation of men coming up, and they were very good at basketball. They won multiple championships in the 1940s, and not only did they do that because they had young, healthy men, but Barcelona was growing as a city. They had foreign players as well, and this is when they really got a name for themselves in the basketball world. After that, they had 20 years of hardship. The fan interest went down. They had financial problems. There was no attendance. But they decided that they needed to revamp this. So in 1971, they built the Palau Blaugrana. Though, when they built it, they still were not very successful. They endured about 7 more years of hardship, and then in 1978, even though it wasn't even their best season, they ended up stealing the Copa del Rey, beating Real Madrid, their arch rivals, the soccer team. They have a basketball team as well. They are currently the best in Europe. But in 1978, they beat them in the Copa del Rey, shocked everyone in the final. They weren't even supposed to be in the final. And this was big for Barcelona. It was basically 30 years since their first golden era in the late 40s. And this was big for them. They got a win, and this got a little bit of passion in Barcelona because there's so much pride beating Real Madrid. It's such a big rivalry, especially in soccer. Just one win like that can make a season for a rival. So that really got the team interested again after 30 years of hardship. To put that in American times, if you look at the worst NFL team, the Cleveland Browns, they haven't been bad for 30 years. 30 years is an extreme time to be one of the worst teams. So as they were getting a little better, more interest came, a big thing happened. They got 3 amazing players. The first one was when Antonio San Epifanio. Then they had Nacho Solozabal and Chicho Sabilio. The big deal, though, was Epifanio. He is a Spanish legend. He really, most people would consider the founder of Barcelona basketball in the 80s. He played with such flair. He was 6'6", very big for a European guard and forward, and he had great passing, great scoring, and he was a legend forever for Barcelona. That got them their league title in 81, 4 years after they won the Copa del Rey. This was even a bigger deal because the league title wasn't just a one-off tournament. That means they were the best team in Spain for the entire year. Epi kept leading them. 4 years later, they won a European title. And at the end of his career, he had a very long career. He played that Spanish style of basketball where he was not hard in his body. He played with the mind, not relying on body skill. So he played very late, and they won 3 back-to-back European titles in the late 1980s, which was a huge deal. By this point, they were selling out their stadium. Basketball for Barcelona truly had a name, and Epi was a hero. Like a soccer player today, he could walk around in the city and people would love him. It was crazy because, as we all know, Barcelona, you think of your soccer first and you think of sports, but this guy was a real A-lister, just like the soccer stars. It was pretty amazing. So, after that era, things got better because Barcelona now had the big 4 new players: Juan Carlos Navarro, Rodrigo de la Fuente, Roberto Dueñas, and most famously, I'm sure everyone knows this one, Pau Gasol, Spanish basketball legend, the best Spanish player of all time. What Epi did, Pau Gasol, elevated it to next levels. This is when Barcelona truly had success. They had 4 league titles, 3 more Copa del Reys, and the 2003, there was a new European league, not the old one that they won a few times. This was the grand one that they had not won yet. They won the league win in 2003, the greatest achievement at that point in the long 70-year Barcelona basketball history. This was amazing. They had all these great players. They were getting international attention. Not only did they have Spanish players, they had players coming from all over the world to play with them. Many NBA players did as well. As you see this picture, Nikola Mirotic, who I will discuss later. He is a player who was amazing for Spain, a Spanish national, but none greater than Pau Gasol. As we said, 2 times NBA champion, 6 times All-Star, 4-time All-NBA teams, which means he was one of the 2 best centers in the NBA 4 times. And he was a FIBA hero for Spain. Countless awards from international press, FIBA itself, for being the international player. He's the best Spanish basketball player of all time. I think everyone in the world knows who's next to him, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant had 2 great reigns in the NBA. One was from early 2000s. The late one was about 2008 to 2010. Pau Gasol was at the later one, 2008-2010. He was already around 30 at this point too. And he played with Kobe Bryant, and he was the second best player. He was a perennial all-star, and he was a hero. Everyone in America knew who he was. He was a big deal, leading Kobe and him to the championship. He won twice with Kobe, officially making him a legend. And not only was he in the NBA, the world's biggest basketball scale, he would come and play with Spain in the FIBA, and he would dominate everyone in Europe while being an NBA star with Kobe. Today, they're still a competitive team. They play in the same place next to Camp Nou, and they have won league titles in recent year and are always fighting with Real Madrid for the top spot. This is Nikola Mirotic. He is an NBA player who's very good. This is him last season for the Milwaukee Bucks. He was playing for a team that was in the playoffs, and they offered him over $15 million a year to play with him in the future. He declined that to go to his hometown Barcelona because he wanted to play with FC Barcelona. He's now the star of FC Barcelona and is making a fraction of what he could in the United States because he loves the city so much and the team. Now what the real big deal is, the 1992 Olympics. Played at Pavelo Olympic de Badalona. It was the 13th time the basketball was in the Olympics. But the big deal was, it was the first year NBA players were eligible to play. This was all going down in Barcelona. These are some of the best NBA players of all time, with everyone in this picture being in the Basketball Hall of Fame. The Dream Team, this was the first year NBA players were allowed to play, and it was a big deal. They trained in 2 weeks in Morocco before it, and they enjoyed going to the topless beaches, the hash lounges, the casinos. They partied, and they asked the coach, why don't you have a curfew on your team? And the coach said, because then I'd have to follow it. That's how much fun they were all having. They were having great bonding. This was the first time rival NBA players could be friends together and do something like that. They were the only team or only Olympic athletes in the whole 1992 Olympics to not stay in the Olympic Village in Montjuic Park because they were worried about the security. They stayed at a 5-star hotel, and there was fans waiting outside for them all the time. This famous picture of Charles Barkley, an NBA All-Star, recognized everywhere in the United States, walking around in La Rambla by himself. They asked him, where's your security, Charles? He looked at his 2 fists and said, these are my security. He had thousands of fans following him wanting a picture. He was acting like a normal person, enjoying the scenes. The outcome of the Olympics was that USA beat Croatia for the gold. USA played 8 games and won by an average of 44 points, outscoring the other teams by a combined 330 points during the Olympics. This popularized basketball forever. It put it on the world stage, and these people throughout Europe were allowed to see the people they saw on their Nike commercials, all of that. These were world famous people, and the Barcelona Olympics brought a public eye to them. This was a big deal, and this also popularized the Olympic sport of basketball. In the bottom right, you see a picture of the 2012 Olympics men basketball team, and it really shows that these are the stars of that time. People want to play them, and they followed in the footsteps of the Dream Team. You see in the bottom left, that's the Dream Team winning gold. If you could ask basically any sports analyst of all time, there's a reason that they're called the Dream Team. They're widely considered the greatest sports team ever assembled, and they played in front of Barcelonians in the Barcelona Olympics 1992. Thank you for watching my presentation.